Have you ever looked at someone's behavior, maybe your friend, your boss, or even yourself, and thought, why would anyone do that? Why do people betray the ones they love? Why do some people act confident while secretly drowning in insecurity? Why do we sabotage our own success, repeat the same mistakes, fall for the same types of people, or allow others to manipulate us? Here's the uncomfortable truth: people rarely act from logic. We act from hidden drives, buried emotions, unconscious wounds, and most of us never even realize it. Welcome to The Laws of Human Nature, a book that doesn't just explain people, it exposes them. It reveals the invisible strings that control our decisions, our relationships, our fears, our desires, and even the power games we never admit we're playing. And once you see these strings, once you understand what Robert Greene calls the laws behind the mask, you can't unsee them. It's like switching on a light in a room you didn't know was dark. Suddenly, people's intentions, their lies, their insecurities, their manipulations, all of it becomes obvious. But here's the twist that makes this book dangerous, fascinating, and absolutely life-changing. These laws don't just help you read others, they force you to confront yourself. Because the truth is, the person who lies to you the most isn't your coworker, your partner, or your enemy, it's you. We all construct stories to protect our ego. We justify our impulses. We hide our wounds behind confidence. We pretend we are fine while emotional storms rage inside us. And this book rips away that illusion. Robert Greene, one of the most respected thinkers of power and psychology, didn't write this book to entertain you, he wrote it to prepare you, to help you understand why people manipulate, why they envy, why they crave attention, why they self-destruct, and why humans, no matter how civilized, still behave according to ancient instincts. This is not a book you simply read, it's a book that reads you. And once it does, you will understand why people follow leaders blindly, why relationships collapse, why you feel drawn to certain types of people, and why the world around you often feels unpredictable, when in reality, it's following patterns as old as humanity itself. By the time you finish this video, you'll never look at people the same way. You'll recognize the emotional triggers behind every reaction, the insecurities behind every overconfident act, the jealousy behind every friendly smile, and the power plays hidden in everyday conversations. And perhaps more importantly, you'll understand yourself with a clarity you may never have experienced before. So if you're ready to uncover the deepest truths about why people behave the way they do, truths that are shocking, uncomfortable, and liberating all at once, then stay with me. This is The Laws of Human Nature, and once we begin, your vision of the world will never be the same again. Chapter 1: Master Your Emotional Self, the Law of Irrationality. Before you can understand other people, you must confront the force that secretly controls you, your emotions. And here's the truth most people spend their entire lives avoiding: you are not a rational being who sometimes feels emotions. You are an emotional being who occasionally thinks. Every decision you make, every argument you start, every opportunity you chase or avoid, every fear that holds you back. They're all shaped by emotions you don't notice, don't question, and don't fully understand. The law of irrationality begins with a brutal but liberating reality. You are not as logical as you think. None of us are. The stories we tell ourselves that we are in control, that we make smart choices, that we think things through are illusions. Most of the time, we act first and justify later. We feel threatened, then convince ourselves we're being reasonable. We feel jealous, then call it concern. We feel insecure and call it just being cautious. Our mind becomes a lawyer hired to defend our impulses, no matter how reckless they are. Robert Greene exposes something almost uncomfortable to admit. Our emotions are ancient, primal survival programs created long before logic even existed. Fear was built to keep us alive. Anger was built to help us protect ourselves. Desire was built to push us toward rewards. But in the modern world, these instincts often fire at the wrong targets. An email, a comment, a glance, a delay, a mistake. We react as though we're being threatened, when in reality, nothing is threatening us at all. The real problem isn't emotion. Emotion is human. The problem is being unaware of emotion. Because when you don't understand what's happening inside you, others can control you effortlessly. Manipulators don't overpower you with force. They simply press emotional buttons you didn't even know you had. They trigger your fear, your pride, your anger, your insecurity, and you dance without realizing the strings are being pulled. This is why mastering your emotional self isn't just self-improvement, it's self-protection. You've probably experienced this, moments where you look back and think, why did I say that? Why did I overreact? Why did I ruin something that didn't need to be ruined? That's not weakness, that's not failure. That's simply what happens when you're controlled by emotion without understanding it. Greene argues that the first step to mastery is becoming an observer of your emotional storms, not a prisoner trapped inside them. The moment you pause and say, this is fear, this is envy. This is insecurity, this is ego, you reclaim power, you slow the reaction, you interrupt the impulse. But this chapter goes deeper. It forces you to confront your personal emotional fingerprints, the patterns you repeat over and over. Some people run from conflict, some people explode at the slightest threat, some people detach, some cling, some chase approval, some sabotage success the moment they get close to it. These habits aren't random, they're shaped by old emotional wounds from your childhood, from past relationships, from times you were ignored, embarrassed, rejected, or underestimated. When you don't understand these wounds, they run your life. When you expose them, you rewrite your future. This is why mastering your emotional self is the foundation of the entire book. If you cannot manage your own irrationality, you will be eaten alive by the irrationality of others. Greene reveals a powerful truth. The calm person is the dangerous person, the one who doesn't react instantly, the one who can step back, think clearly, and separate fact from feeling. That is the person who wins negotiations, who leads, who maintains strong relationships, who makes smart decisions, who cannot be easily manipulated. Emotional mastery is not about becoming cold, it's about becoming clear. Imagine for a moment what your life would look like if you stopped acting from fear, insecurity, impulse, or old emotional patterns. How many arguments would you avoid? How many mistakes would you stop repeating? How many opportunities would you take that you currently run from? How many people would lose their power over you? This chapter is not just a lesson, it is a mirror. And the courage to look into that mirror might be the most important decision you ever make. Because once you understand your emotional self, you become the master of your mind, not its victim. And from that moment on, everything changes. Chapter 2: Transform Self-Love into Empathy, the Law of Narcissism. Have you ever wondered why people so often disappoint each other? Why friendships break over misunderstandings? Why relationships fall apart even when both people claim they care? And why communication, something so simple, feels like a battlefield? Robert Greene begins this chapter with a truth that is as uncomfortable as it is liberating. Every human being is a narcissist. Not in the exaggerated, abusive sense we usually imagine, but in the quiet, everyday way that shapes how we see the world. We view life through a lens centered entirely on ourselves, our needs, our fears, our expectations, our stories. We don't see others as they truly are. We see them as pieces in our emotional puzzle, and they unknowingly do the same. This self-centered perspective creates endless conflicts without us ever realizing where the problem truly lies. The law of narcissism reveals that narcissism is not a flaw of a few, it is the natural default of every mind. From childhood, our emotional world was shaped by one dominating question: am I being seen? Am I being understood? If attention was scarce, we developed insecurity. If attention was excessive, we developed entitlement. If emotions were dismissed, we learned to hide them, and if they were overly coddled, we learned to depend on validation. These early experiences form the blueprint for our personal style of narcissism, whether we become quietly self-protective, desperately approval-seeking, or outwardly grandiose. But the real danger lies in what this self-focus does to our ability to connect. When two people are listening only to their own inner dialogue, communication becomes impossible. One person speaks from their insecurity, the other responds from their ego. Both feel misunderstood, and both walk away believing the other is the problem. Greene explains that this emotional blindness keeps us locked inside ourselves, unable to see the inner reality of others, and unable to escape the suffering caused by miscommunication and unmet expectations. Yet Greene does not leave us trapped in this reality. He offers a powerful escape: empathy. Empathy is not about being overly sensitive or sacrificing your needs. It is not weakness. It is emotional intelligence in its highest form, the ability to silence your own inner noise long enough to understand another person's emotional world. When you practice empathy, you begin to see past people's defenses, their masks, and their pretenses. You start noticing the wound behind the anger, the fear behind the arrogance, the insecurity behind the neediness, and the loneliness behind the coldness. Suddenly, people's behavior stops feeling personal. It becomes readable, predictable, understandable. This chapter emphasizes that empathy is a power skill, not a soft skill. Those who master it gain insight into people that others can't see. They can sense hidden motives, detect dishonesty, understand emotional triggers, and navigate social dynamics with calm confidence. Empathy gives you influence, not by manipulating others, but by understanding them better than they understand themselves. And this understanding protects you from emotional danger. While narcissistic individuals react impulsively, empathetic individuals perceive patterns, choose responses wisely, and avoid getting entangled in unnecessary drama. Greene explains that escaping your own narcissism begins with a shift in perspective. Instead of constantly asking, "How are they treating me?" or "Why aren't they giving me what I need?" you begin to ask, "What is happening inside them?" This simple shift changes everything. You move from emotional reactivity to emotional clarity. You stop expecting others to behave according to your inner script and start understanding the script they are acting out, one shaped by their fears, wounds, and insecurities. The transformation Greene describes is profound. When you break free from self-absorption, you gain the ability to read and influence people with precision. You connect more deeply, manage conflicts more intelligently, and protect your emotional boundaries more effectively. Your relationships become healthier, your communication becomes clearer, and your sense of loneliness begins to dissolve. You are no longer trapped in the prison of your own ego. You have stepped into the larger emotional landscape of human nature. In the end, the law of narcissism teaches that genuine self-love is not about indulging the ego, it's about expanding your awareness beyond it. When you understand others deeply, you don't lose yourself, you become a better, wiser, more powerful version of yourself. That is the evolution Greene invites us to embrace. Chapter 3: See Through People's Masks, the Law of Role-Playing. Whether we like to admit it or not, every human being is an actor, not just on stage, not just in moments of pressure, but every single day of their life. The world we live in is a massive theater, and every person you meet, your friends, your partner, your coworkers, even you, is performing. We act confident when we are terrified. We act kind when we're irritated. We act strong when we feel broken. And the greatest mistake you can make is to take people at face value, believing that what they show you is who they truly are. Robert Greene begins this chapter with a simple but life-changing truth. People wear masks to survive. But if you learn to see behind the mask, you unlock a level of understanding and power that most people will never reach. Greene explains that we learn to perform from childhood. Early in life, we discovered that certain behaviors earned approval, affection, or safety, while others brought punishment, shame, or rejection. So we adapted. We crafted a version of ourselves that the world would accept, admire, or fear. Over time, that version became our mask, a carefully curated identity we present to others, even if it hides our true emotions. You might see someone who appears calm, but underneath is a storm of insecurity. You might meet someone who seems arrogant, but inside is a child terrified of being unworthy. And you may encounter someone who seems soft and innocent, yet hides a deep reservoir of ambition or resentment. People are rarely what they appear to be. But what makes this chapter so profound is Greene's reminder that most people have no awareness they're acting. They think their mask is their truth. They have worn it for so long that it has fused with their personality. And because everyone else is also acting, most people never stop to question the authenticity of those around them. This is why people are so easily fooled, manipulated, disappointed, or betrayed. They only see the performance, never the motive behind it. Greene encourages us to become observers rather than participants. Emotionally intelligent people do not listen only to words. They watch the microbehaviors people cannot fake. The hesitation before answering a question, the flicker of insecurity in their eyes, the sudden shift in tone when they talk about someone, the way their smile doesn't match the tension in their jaw. Real understanding comes not from what people say, but from what they leak. And every person leaks far more truth than they intend. One of the most powerful insights from this chapter is that the most dangerous masks belong not to villains, but to the overly nice, the overly humble, and the overly agreeable. These personalities often hide deep resentment, insecurity, or a fear of confrontation. Their politeness is a shield, their softness a disguise. They avoid conflict not because they are peaceful, but because they fear being exposed or disliked. And when their suppressed emotions finally break through, it shocks everyone around them, except the person who has learned to see beyond the mask. Greene argues that the only way to navigate the complex social theater of life is to stop taking people literally. Everyone is performing a role: the helper, the rebel, the leader, the victim, the intellectual, the tough guy, the perfectionist. And behind every role is a need for validation, control, safety, admiration, or love. When you identify the role someone is playing, you gain immediate insight into their fears and desires. You understand what drives them, what wounds shape them, and how they will likely behave in the future. This isn't manipulation, it's clarity. It's emotional intelligence elevated to a higher level. But Greene also challenges us to examine our own mask. What role are you playing? What image are you trying to project to the world? What emotions do you hide to maintain that image? Behind your mask may be unhealed wounds, buried anger, or insecurities you refuse to confront. And the more rigid your mask is, the more disconnected you become from your authentic self. True growth begins when you understand the performance you're giving and why you're giving it. The chapter ultimately teaches that the world is a stage filled with people acting based on fear, desire, insecurity, and pride. If you look only at their performance, you will live in confusion, constantly misreading intentions and motives. But if you learn to look behind the mask, to see the emotional reality beneath the surface, you gain a level of social awareness and psychological strength that few people ever achieve. You become someone who cannot be deceived easily, someone who understands human nature intuitively, and someone who moves through life with clarity and confidence. In the end, Greene leaves us with a powerful truth. The person who sees people clearly, beyond their masks, holds the true advantage in any social environment. When you understand the performance, you no longer get lost in the illusion. Chapter 4: Determine the strength of people's character, the law of compulsive behavior. Everyone wants to believe they are free, that their actions reflect conscious choices, rational decisions, and thoughtful intention. But Robert Greene dismantles that illusion immediately. Most people are not acting from choice, they are acting from compulsion. They repeat patterns they don't understand, make decisions based on emotional wounds they don't recognize, and move through life driven not by who they want to be, but by who they were forced to become. This is the essence of the law of compulsive behavior. If you want to understand people, not just what they say, but what they do, you must look at their patterns, not their promises. Greene explains that while people wear masks to hide their emotions, their character is what inevitably reveals who they are. Character is the sum of their habits, their worldview, their emotional responses, their resilience, their weaknesses, and their unconscious wounds. It is the internal blueprint that governs behavior. And here lies the critical insight: character repeats itself. No matter how much someone claims to have changed, no matter what they promise, their underlying character leads them back to the same behaviors again and again. You will see it in how they handle stress, how they respond to setbacks, how they treat people beneath them, and how they act when they think no one is watching. This chapter warns us against one of the most dangerous human tendencies: judging people by their words instead of their patterns. We fall for charm, confidence, politeness, passion, or intelligence. We believe people when they assure us they've changed, that this time will be different, that they didn't mean it, that they're working on themselves. But Greene urges us to pay attention to what they do repeatedly. If someone consistently blames others, they will blame you. If someone avoids responsibility, they will avoid it with you. If someone lacks self-control, their chaos will eventually spill into your life. Character cannot be hidden for long. It is destiny in slow motion. Greene traces compulsive behavior back to childhood. Every person develops emotional patterns early in life as a survival mechanism. If a child grows up in chaos, they may become controlling. If they grow up unseen, they may become attention-hungry. If they grow up criticized, they may become defensive. These patterns become so ingrained that, as adults, people repeat them automatically. They recreate the same emotional environment over and over because it feels familiar, even if it's destructive. This is why some people repeatedly choose toxic partners, sabotage their success, or fall into the same conflicts. They are not choosing these situations consciously, they are unconsciously drawn to them. But Greene also offers a hopeful angle. Strong character is just as visible as weak character. A person with strong character has emotional stability, resilience, discipline, and consistency. They treat others well even when they gain nothing. They keep their promises, not because it's convenient, but because it reflects who they are. They remain calm under pressure, they think before reacting, and they do what is necessary even when it's difficult. Strong character reveals itself not in moments of comfort, but in moments of stress. When life becomes challenging, people with weak character crumble, lash out, or retreat into old habits, while those with strong character grow sharper, clearer, and stronger. The real power of this chapter lies in Greene's message. If you want to predict someone's future behavior, study their past behavior. Humans are not mysterious or unpredictable, they are consistent. We are creatures of habit, psychological machines running on emotional software written long before adulthood. Once you understand this, people become easier to read, easier to understand, and easier to navigate. You stop being surprised by their actions because you finally see the pattern behind them. Greene doesn't let us off the hook either. He pushes us to examine our own compulsive patterns. What behaviors do you repeat even when they hurt you? What emotional triggers control you? What habits sabotage your progress? What fears shape your decisions? Self-awareness is the first step toward breaking the cycle, but it requires brutal honesty. You must confront the patterns you've been defending your whole life. The core lesson of this chapter is powerful. Judge character, not charm, patterns, not promises, consistency, not intentions. When you learn to assess character clearly, your own and others, you protect yourself from emotional harm, avoid toxic relationships, choose better allies, and build a stronger, more stable version of yourself. Understanding character gives you the ability to navigate human nature with precision, clarity, and confidence. Chapter 5. Become an elusive object of desire. The law of covetousness. Human beings rarely desire what is easily available. We want what we cannot have, what is just beyond our reach, what sparkles with mystery and promises an experience we've never tasted before. This is the essence of the law of covetousness, a law that governs far more of our behavior than we like to admit. Robert Greene exposes a truth most people would rather ignore. Desire is not rational. It is psychological, emotional, and deeply rooted in comparison. We want what others want. We value what is scarce, and we crave what feels just out of our grasp. Greene begins by reminding us that people see only what they lack. Desire springs from a sense of incompleteness, an internal void that we try to fill with people, status, possessions, or experiences. When something or someone appears to offer that missing piece, desire ignites. But the moment the object of desire becomes too accessible, too predictable, too familiar, the illusion fades. The excitement dissolves. What once felt magical becomes ordinary. Nothing kills desire faster than certainty. This chapter reveals a timeless psychological principle. Mystery is magnetic. When you reveal everything about yourself, your intentions, your emotions, your availability, you think you are gaining connection. But in reality, you're draining the mystery that fuels desire. People become used to you, they assume they've seen all you have to offer, and their imagination goes silent. But when you maintain an aura of unpredictability, subtle distance, or quiet confidence, you spark curiosity. And curiosity is the seed of desire. Greene does not suggest manipulation. He suggests understanding human psychology. People project their fantasies onto what they do not fully understand. They imagine your strengths, your secrets, your experiences, and in that imagination, you become larger, more compelling, more valuable. This is why celebrities, leaders, and even mysterious strangers command attention. They reveal enough to intrigue, but never enough to satisfy. They allow desire to breathe rather than suffocate it with overexposure. He also explores the emotional mechanics behind covetousness. Humans compare themselves constantly: status, success, relationships, lifestyle. When they see someone valued by others, they automatically perceive them as more desirable. This is why scarcity, exclusivity, and social proof amplify attraction. People don't want the thing itself, they want the meaning attached to it. They want the validation, the symbolism, the feeling of possessing something others admire. But Greene also dissects the darker side of this law. When desire turns obsessive, people become irrational. They chase illusions, they destroy relationships, they sabotage their own dignity, they covet what others have simply because it seems unattainable. Understanding this law is not only about becoming desirable, it's also about protecting yourself from those who project their fantasies, insecurities, or envy onto you. People can desire you intensely one moment and resent you fiercely the next if they feel rejected or unworthy. The chapter pushes us to look inward as well. What do we covet? What gaps in our identity feed our longing? What illusions drive our chase for specific people or achievements? When you clarify the roots of your desires, you gain control over them. Instead of blindly pursuing objects that promise fulfillment, you can evaluate whether they truly align with who you want to become. Yet the most empowering message of this chapter lies in Greene's advice on how to cultivate your own value. You become desirable not by trying to impress others, not by chasing approval, not by showcasing desperation, but by elevating your self-worth, nurturing your individuality, and cultivating qualities that are genuinely rare: self-confidence, emotional control, independence, purpose, and depth. When you stop seeking constant validation, you naturally become more intriguing. When you focus on growth, your presence becomes magnetic. When you carry yourself as someone who does not need, but chooses, you shift the power dynamic entirely. The law of covetousness teaches a timeless truth. People desire what feels scarce, valuable, and slightly out of reach, but never completely unavailable. When you master this balance, you shape how others perceive you. You do not chase desire, you inspire it. You do not beg for attention, you command it effortlessly. And most importantly, you protect your own energy from those who only crave the fantasy of you, not the reality. Chapter 6. Elevate your perspective. The law of short-sightedness. Most people live trapped in the urgency of the moment, reacting, scrambling, panicking, and chasing whatever feels important right now. They make decisions based on fear, impulse, ego, or immediate gratification, never realizing that this short-sightedness blinds them to the larger patterns shaping their lives. In The Laws of Human Nature, Robert Greene calls this the law of short-sightedness, a psychological trap that destroys potential long before individuals even recognize what they've lost. Greene begins with a powerful observation. Human beings are emotional creatures pretending to be rational. When challenges strike or desires arise, our ability to think long-term collapses. We want quick results, quick validation, quick pleasure. We want the pain gone immediately, even if the solution sabotages our future. This mindset is the root of poor decisions, impulsive relationships, reckless spending, emotional outbursts, missed opportunities, and self-inflicted failures. The tragedy is that short-sightedness feels normal. We convince ourselves that we're being practical when in truth, we're just reacting. We justify emotional decisions as logical ones. We tell ourselves that there will be time to fix things later. But life punishes those who ignore the long game. Every impulsive choice leaves a mark, slowly tightening around us until we are trapped by our own unexamined habits. Greene reveals that powerful people, visionary leaders, and successful individuals across history often shared one remarkable trait: the ability to rise above the chaos of the present moment and see years, even decades, into the future. They resist the emotional storms that force others into rash decisions. They slow down, they observe, they analyze, they anticipate consequences. While most people are drowning in the now, these individuals navigate life with strategic patience. This chapter forces us to confront a painful truth. Much of the stress and instability in our lives comes from decisions made without foresight. When we prioritize comfort over discipline, distraction over purpose, instant gratification over growth, we unknowingly trade long-term success for a burst of temporary relief. And then we wonder why we feel stuck, overwhelmed, or directionless. Greene urges us to detach from the emotional noise that distorts our vision. When you step back and expand your perspective, patterns become clear. People's true intentions reveal themselves. Opportunities hidden beneath impatience emerge. You begin to recognize that every choice has a ripple effect, shaping not just your future, but your identity. Long-term thinkers do not chase every impulse. They choose deliberately, even when the choice is uncomfortable. Another profound insight Greene offers is the importance of emotional neutrality. When you let emotions dictate your thinking, your vision collapses. Fear makes you retreat. Anger makes you reckless. Desire makes you blind. But when you learn to pause, breathe, and see beyond the moment, your decisions become sharper, wiser, and more aligned with your higher purpose. You stop reacting and start directing. This long-term perspective also protects you from manipulators and opportunists. Short-sighted people are easy to control. They want quick results and immediate pleasure, making them predictable. But those who think beyond the moment cannot be easily swayed. They see manipulation before it strikes. They recognize traps disguised as shortcuts. They understand that real power comes from consistency, strategy, and patience, not emotional impulses. Greene leaves us with a transformative message. Your future is not shaped by luck. It is shaped by perspective. When you elevate your thinking, when you zoom out and see your life as a long narrative instead of a series of isolated moments, you gain a power that most people never experience. The power to choose intentionally, the power to act wisely, the power to rise above chaos instead of being swallowed by it. The law of short-sightedness is a warning and a call to action. Stop living on emotional autopilot. Stop reacting to every moment as if it defines your life. Instead, cultivate foresight. Think in terms of years, not minutes. Make choices your future self will thank you for, not regret. Because those who master long-term thinking aren't just more successful, they are calmer, more stable, more disciplined, and far more powerful than those who live chained to the urgency of right now. Conclusion. If there's one truth that the laws of human nature forces us to confront, it's this: we are all far less rational, far less aware, and far more predictable than we want to believe. And that's not an insult, it's an invitation to wake up, to see the hidden patterns shaping every decision, every relationship, every habit, and every reaction in our lives. Through each chapter, we've uncovered the invisible forces driving human behavior, the irrational impulses we pretend don't exist, the emotional triggers we underestimate, the unconscious games we play, and the psychological traps we fall into without realizing it. Greene doesn't just expose these behaviors to make us feel judged or guilty. He exposes them so that we can take back control. Because the moment you understand human nature, not the idealized version, but the raw, imperfect, emotional truth, you gain power. Power over your own reactions. Power over the narratives others project onto you. Power over situations that once manipulated you. And most importantly, power over the story of your own life. Think about how many years you've spent reacting instead of thinking. How many arguments, disappointments, bad decisions, or regrets happened because you didn't know what was actually happening inside your own mind or the minds of others. Greene's book isn't just information, it's clarity. It's the manual we were never given, the guide we desperately needed, the truth most people never learn until it's too late. Now the question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you let it fade like another interesting idea you heard online, or will you actually use it? Because the moment you start applying even one of these laws, whether it's mastering your emotions, thinking long-term, reading people more accurately, or understanding hidden motivations, your life changes. Your relationships change, your decisions sharpen, your confidence strengthens. You stop being a passenger and start becoming the one holding the steering wheel. And if you want more videos that don't just entertain you but transform you, more summaries of powerful books, deep psychological insights, and life-changing principles, then make sure you subscribe right now. Because this channel is just here to give you information. It's here to make you think, to make you grow, and to give you the knowledge that most people will never have. So before you go, hit that like button if this breakdown opened your eyes. Hit subscribe if you want to keep elevating your mind. And turn on notifications, because the next video might be the one that shifts your entire perspective. Thank you for staying till the end, and remember, the most powerful person in the room is the one who understands human nature. Keep learning, keep evolving, and I'll see you in the next video.